America Decides. We bring you reactions from across the globe with our correspondents ready to share the views from various countries.
Daniel Gijo, SABC, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Patrick Falk, SABC News, Beijing.
I'm Coletta Njohi for SABC News in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Bruce Harrison, SABC News, Seoul.
Phil Ihaza, SABC News in Abuja, Nigeria.
Stuart Smith, SABC News, Moscow.
Neha Punya, SABC News, New Delhi.
Holly Hudson for SABC News in London.
For the latest rolling coverage, watch the SABC News channel. Independent and impartial.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has taken the lead in Georgia as vote counting continues. Ballot returns show Joe Biden closing the gap in key swing states. United States President Donald Trump has presented a litany of grievances while accusing the Democrats of trying to steal and rig the election. Trump has promised extensive litigation over unsubstantiated claims of fraud across multiple states. Show Bryce Peace filed this report.
The world's attention was cast to the ballot counts in the key states of Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania and Nevada that remain too close to call. The state of Arizona is also still in play, despite some U.S. news media projecting that Biden would claim the Republican stronghold for the first time as a Democrat since 1996. But it was the president who appeared late Thursday after being holed up in the White House, making ill-founded claims of fraud as his grip on the presidency looks increasingly tenuous.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. Our goal is to defend the integrity of the election. We'll not allow the corruption to steal such an important election, or any election for that matter. And we can't allow anybody to silence our voters and manufacture results.
He indicated that given the various streams of litigation his campaign was pursuing across the country, that ultimately judges would have to determine the outcome of this election.
We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land. We'll see. But we think there'll be a lot of litigation because we can't have an election stolen like this. And I tell you, I have been talking about this for many months. It's not a question of who wins, Republican, Democrat, Joe, myself. We can't let that happen to our country. We can't be disgraced by having something like this happen. So it will be hopefully cleared up, maybe soon, I hope soon. But it'll probably go through a process, a legal process. But ultimately, I have a feeling judges are going to have to rule. But there's been a lot of shenanigans, and we can't stand for that in our country.
Democratic nominee Joe Biden earlier expressed a sense of calm as he held a comfortable lead within reach of the 270 electoral college votes or delegates required to win the presidency.
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world.
Biden called for all the votes to be counted as he sought to portray himself as unruffled while the president appeared increasingly untethered.
We continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So, I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon. So thank you all for your patience, but we have to count the votes.
As the president's campaign pressed ahead with lawsuits, Biden's trajectory towards victory appeared increasingly assured, a detail not lost on the incumbent, who sought to undermine that narrative with claims that hinged on fabrication and fantasy. As poll workers diligently continued their counting under the scrutiny of a country on edge. Mr. Trump's baseless claims will leave many uncomfortable, questioning the integrity of an American election in a statement littered with falsehoods, reminiscent of election outcomes in other places but not here. Until, of course, right now. Shervin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
Well, for more on the U.S. elections, I'm joined in studio by foreign editor Sophie Mokoena. Thanks very much, Ms. Sophie, for joining us. So what is the latest? I mean, there's still so much up in the air, and people are anxious as to when these elections are actually going to be counted and a winner declared soon.
Well, breaking news is that Joe Biden is now leading in Georgia, and this is actually giving an indication that before end of business, we'll definitely know who is going to meet or achieve or reach that threshold of 270 votes, the college votes everyone is looking for. And I think we saw last night the two leaders addressing the media or the nation in the United States of America. The contrast there, you saw Joe Biden being very calm and demonstrating leadership and almost like taking over when at that time the commander-in-chief was nowhere to be found. And 2 hours after he came, the commander-in-chief, the current commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, to also set the record straight. The contrast here, Nombu, you have Joe Biden coming in, being presidential. You have Donald Trump coming in, me, about me being the president, while Joe Biden started with issues that are affecting the people of that country.
Now, in terms of the different styles of the two men, what is it that you observed? And the other layer to the question is really around the threat of litigation. Could this thing go on through towards the end of November?
Well, of course, that's what Donald Trump has said. He even indicated that he's prepared to go to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. But for those who are familiar with legal processes in the United States of America, people are saying that he doesn't have strong evidence. And you know, when you go to court, you must have strong evidence. Already yesterday, he lost 2 court cases. And therefore, there's an indication that it's not going to be easy. And we are told that the FBI already dispatched a team to go and give protection to Joe Biden, an indication that they are already preparing for a different scenario. On the other hand, we are told that the supporters of the right-wing groups in the United States of America, particularly in Pennsylvania, they were arrested and they were on their way to try and destabilize those who are at the counting center. But the security establishment there, they were quick to deal with that scenario. But the issue of leadership is quite important during a crisis. Joe Biden is a former vice president. He doesn't need Donald Trump handing over and transition. He was there, he was in that office. This was demonstrated yesterday in terms of when he got in, the first thing, it was a collective decision talking about him and Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump, it was about him, not even a mention of what Mike Pence was doing or whether he's part of the whole situation of challenging the elections. Let's take a listen at what the two leaders had to say last night, and also look at their body language, listen attentively in terms of how they presented themselves at that moment when America was on a knife edge.
Senator Harris and I just completed briefings on both COVID and the economic crisis facing this nation. And we're reminded again of the severity of this pandemic. Cases are on the rise nationwide, and we're nearing 240,000 deaths due to COVID. And our hearts go out to each and every family that has lost a loved one to this terrible disease.
I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech.
You be the judge. The body language, in terms of how they presented themselves, the whole message generally. With Biden, it was about COVID-19 on the day where the United States of America reported the highest number. And secondly, the issue of the economy, issues that are so close to the hearts and minds of the Americans. But for President Trump, it was about him going back to the White House, and the whole family yesterday all over on social media criticizing people, even attacking the Republicans. But we'll continue to give you an update from 3 o'clock. We'll give you an update at 4 o'clock. We'll be with the Biden camp. At 5 o'clock, we'll be with Donald Trump, the camp, to get a sense of what's happening. At 6 o'clock, Sean Bryce-Pease will give us an overview. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll have Eusebius, who's going to unpack the foreign policy and what the Americans can learn from a country like South Africa, a continent, Africa. And of course, at 8 o'clock, the former ambassador of the United States of America in South Africa, who has gone back to the United States of America to give us a sense of what's happening within the Republicans. And Nick Harper, again, update in terms of what Biden is doing. And secondly, Sean Bryce-Pease, again, on what President Trump is up to.
Thanks very much, Sophie, for that very comprehensive coverage that you're giving us here at the SABC for the South African public.
America Decides. We bring you reactions from across the globe with our correspondents ready to share the views from various countries.
Daniel Gijo, SABC, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Patrick Falk, SABC News, Beijing.
I'm Coletta Njohi for SABC News in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Bruce Harrison, SABC News, Seoul.
Phil Ihaza, SABC News in Abuja, Nigeria.
Stuart Smith, SABC News, Moscow.
Neha Punia, SABC News, New Delhi.
Holly Hudson for SABC News in London.
For the latest rolling coverage, watch the SABC News channel. Independent and impartial.